The sky over Earth had never looked the same. People all over the world noticed it first. An unnatural darkness that stretched across the horizon. A shadow that moved with a slow, deliberate weight. At first, many thought it was a storm or some strange cosmic phenomenon. But when the night came early and the stars disappeared behind enormous metallic shapes, there was no doubt. Humanity was not alone. From the quiet streets of small towns to the bustling cities of continents, humans stopped. Phones dropped from hands. Children clung to parents. Soldiers stared at their instruments in disbelief. No radar could fully track the objects. They were massive, far larger than any spacecraft humanity had ever built. Their surfaces shimmered with a strange energy, and the shapes moved in perfect harmony, as if the entire fleet were one organism. Dr. Layla Mahmoud, a leading astrophysicist at the International Space Observatory, was among the first to understand the threat. She had dedicated her life to scanning the cosmos for anomalies, for signs of life beyond Earth. But nothing in her career had prepared her for this. Her screens were filled with a pattern she could not decode, a pulsing wave of sound and light. Not language, not music, not anything human. And yet it carried an unmistakable purpose. They're communicating, she whispered to herself, her voice trembling. But not with us. Not yet. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, but the signal itself was impossible to explain. Satellites picked it up, and every telescope in the world turned toward the alien fleet, trying to decipher the waves. Governments convened emergency meetings. Military advisors debated strategy, but every suggestion felt useless. The ships were fast, enormous, and their weaponry, or whatever the faint ripples of energy were, made humanity's defenses look fragile. In New York, Commander Elias Carter watched the sky from the deck of an aircraft carrier in the Atlantic. He had seen many crises, many threats, but nothing like this. "They're waiting," he said to his crew. "They know we can't reach them yet. And they know we know they're here." His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed his fear. In the deserts of Africa, families gathered in the open, watching the horizon. Across Asia, people climbed rooftops to see the dark shapes blot out the sun. There was awe in the fear. Humanity had dreamed of contact with alien life for generations, and now it had arrived not as curiosity, but as a challenge. For weeks, the alien fleet hovered in Earth's orbit, moving slowly but always deliberately. They didn't attack immediately. Instead, their harmonic pulses filled the atmosphere, strange sounds and vibrations that rattled buildings and unsettled animals. Scientists discovered that the pulses interacted with human brains in unpredictable ways. Some felt intense anxiety, others strange clarity, but no one could understand the pattern. The waves were like music, but with a power no instrument could produce. At the United Nations, emergency sessions were held. Leaders of every nation debated whether to attempt contact, to strike preemptively, or to flee. The discussion was intense, emotional, and often fruitless. Humanity was divided, but fear created an unlikely bond. No country could face the threat alone, and alliances that had once been fragile were now forged in necessity. Amid this chaos, ordinary people continued their lives as best they could. Shops remained open for a while. Schools tried to function, and in small towns, farmers watched their skies with growing concern. Humanity's instinct was not just fear. It was observation, curiosity, and stubborn endurance. Even in the face of the unknown, people adapted. They made plans, shared information, and tried to understand what could not be understood. Dr. Mahmoud worked tirelessly with her team, analyzing the alien signals. Late one night, in a lab filled with glowing screens, she spoke to her assistant, Jamal. "They're trying to understand us," she said. "I don't think they want to destroy us immediately. They're studying patterns, reactions. Maybe they want to see how we respond." Jamal shook his head. "Or maybe they're just deciding how to end us." "That's possible too," she admitted. "But either way, we need to prepare." In the skies above, the alien fleet was not idle. Ships shifted position, forming intricate patterns that could be seen even from Earth. Cities reported strange atmospheric disturbances. Lights flickered. Electronics malfunctioned. Birds fell from the sky and storms formed without warning. Humanity began to realize that these were not just ships. They were extensions of an intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Despite the fear, humans found ways to resist panic. Underground bunkers were opened, shelters organized, and communication networks reinforced. People shared resources, guided the vulnerable, and tried to maintain a sense of normalcy. Even as the alien fleet moved with terrifying grace, humanity clung to hope, stubborn and unyielding. Commander Carter coordinated efforts with global military leaders. Though every weapon in Earth's arsenal was dwarfed by the alien technology, he refused to surrender. "We may be small, but we're unpredictable," he told his team. "They may be powerful, but they don't understand us yet. That is our strength." In Japan, a young engineer named Akira Sato watched the sky from a mountaintop observatory. He noticed patterns in the alien lights, small rhythms that repeated in ways that suggested thought. "It's like they're trying to speak without words," he murmured. He began sketching the patterns, hoping someone somewhere could make sense of them. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, children stared at the sky, pointing to the largest ships. "Do you think they're friendly?" one asked. His mother hugged him tightly. "I don't know," she whispered. "But we'll stay together, and that's what matters." Days turned into weeks. Humanity adjusted to a new reality, life under the gaze of an alien intelligence. Markets opened and closed under curfews, schools held classes in protected areas, and families organized their lives around the strange pulses that filled the air. The world had changed forever, and yet humans found ways to live, to fight fear with community, curiosity, and courage. Dr. Mahmoud finally discovered something significant. The pulses were not just noise, they carried information, patterns that could be measured, decoded, and perhaps used. "It's a language," she said, her eyes wide with excitement and fear. "We don't know what it says, but it is communication. And if we can respond, maybe we can show them that Earth is not so easy to take." The story closes the first part with a haunting scene. The alien fleet hangs silently above Earth, massive and unknowable. Below, humanity watches, waits, and begins to organize in ways never imagined before. Fear has not crushed them. Instead, it has awakened the species' best qualities: adaptability, intelligence, and the refusal to surrender. Somewhere in the cold vacuum of space, the aliens observe, calculating, analyzing, and unaware of what comes next. Humanity, fragile yet resilient, is already thinking, already planning, and for the first time may have a chance to speak back. The stars, for now, are silent, but Earth is listening. The silence of space shattered first with a low humming pulse, then with a blinding flash across the atmosphere. Earth had no warning. The alien fleet, hovering silently for weeks, now moved with terrifying speed and precision. The first attack hit the Pacific Rim. Cities vanished in flashes of light that made the sun seem dim by comparison. Tsunamis raced across coastlines as enormous energy pulses tore through the ocean. Commander Elias Carter stood on the bridge of his carrier, eyes wide, voice tight. "All units, defensive positions. Evacuate civilians from coastal areas." "This is not a drill." But even as orders spread, the reality became clear. Humanity's weapons could not reach the alien fleet. Missiles disintegrated mid-air before even touching the ships. Fighters vanished under beams of energy, their pilots frozen in the sky one moment, gone the next. The oceans trembled, the earth shuddered, and humanity felt the weight of a force it could barely understand. Dr. Layla Mahmoud watched in horror from her underground lab as data poured in from sensors worldwide. Her heart pounded. "They're not just attacking, they're analyzing," she whispered to Jamal. "Every strike, every pattern, they're learning from it. They want to understand how we fight, how we react." In the streets of New Delhi, crowds ran blindly as buildings shook. Parents clutched children, praying the pulses would pass them by. In Moscow, the Red Square melted into chaos as electromagnetic waves made electronics fail. Every communication system was under siege, leaving cities isolated, trembling, and terrified. Humanity fought back with what it had. Fighter jets rose into the sky, launching rockets and lasers, but it was like ants attacking a mountain. The alien ships shifted position, almost playful in their movement, avoiding every attack with ease. Cities called for evacuation, but evacuation seemed impossible. The aliens' control extended beyond the sky. Satellites fell like raindrops, and communication networks faltered under invisible interference. Despite the overwhelming odds, small pockets of humanity displayed courage and ingenuity. In underground bunkers in Germany, engineers reactivated old Cold War-era missile systems, attempting to create improvised defenses. In Canada, farmers and townspeople used every available vehicle to transport those in danger to safer regions. Every act of resistance was a small but significant spark amid the destruction. In Tokyo, Akira Sato observed the alien fleet from his mountaintop observatory. He tracked patterns in their movements, noticing that some pulses caused minor changes in the ship's formations. "They're learning about us," he said aloud. "They're testing our reactions. They don't expect us to understand, but maybe we can." The first wave of strikes hit New York City next. Skyscrapers bent, twisted, and collapsed under beams of energy that left nothing in their path. Fire spread across blocks like rivers of flame. Helicopters attempted to rescue civilians but were shot down in seconds. The air was thick with smoke, screams, and the surreal hum of alien pulses. Even in this chaos, humans refused to surrender. Volunteer rescue teams navigated crumbling streets, pulling people from rubble, sharing water, blankets, and hope. Soldiers and police formed lines to protect those fleeing. Every moment of compassion became a defiance against the annihilation surrounding them. In the Arctic, research stations faced destruction as energy pulses melted ice and sent shockwaves across the frozen land. Scientists recorded every detail, knowing it could help humanity survive even as they feared for their own lives. "If we can understand how they attack," one researcher said, "maybe we can find a way to fight back." Even now. Meanwhile, the alien fleet maintained an eerie calm. Unlike humans, they did not panic. Their energy beams were precise, deliberate, and almost artistic in their execution. They seemed to anticipate every move, yet they also left subtle gaps, openings that were invisible to most but detectable by the few who paid attention. In South America, survivors in small towns took refuge in mountains, hiding as the skies above burned. The chaos of the big cities made them invisible to the fleet for now. They could only watch the distant horizon and wonder how long humanity could endure such a storm. Dr. Mahmoud's team worked frantically. By analyzing the signals, she discovered something remarkable. The alien attacks were not random. "They're observing patterns in human behavior," she explained to Jamal. "Every strike seems designed to provoke fear, panic, or desperation. They're studying us like an experiment." Jamal's face went pale. "So this slaughter is just the beginning? They're not done yet?" "They might be done physically, but not mentally," Layla replied. "They want to know what humans are capable of when everything is taken away. We're their test." On the battlefield, Commander Carter refused to give up. Even as his forces were decimated, he rallied every pilot, soldier, and civilian who would listen. "They may be stronger," he told them, voice steady despite the destruction outside. "They may be faster, but they do not understand one thing about humans. We do not surrender. We adapt. We fight with our minds, with our hearts, with our will. That is why we are dangerous." Even as despair loomed, there were moments of heroism. In Paris, a group of volunteers led survivors through the underground metro tunnels, avoiding the pulses that destroyed the surface. In Cape Town, a young medic saved dozens of children from a collapsing hospital. In Siberia, a small team of engineers managed to reroute power to a communications satellite, long enough to send a warning signal to the world. Every act of courage, every small victory reminded humanity that it was not yet defeated. The night was long, filled with fire, smoke, and alien hums. Cities burned, seas boiled, and mountains trembled. Yet in the hearts of humans, something stronger than fear endured. It was determination. It was creativity. It was defiance. Even in the face of a force that seemed godlike, humans found ways to resist. By the time the first day of the attacks ended, billions were dead, millions were injured, and countless cities were in ruins. Humanity had suffered a slaughter unmatched in its history. But the survivors began to understand something vital. The aliens were not infallible. Their movements, their attacks, even their signals carried patterns. They were intelligent, but they had weaknesses. Flaws that only humans could discover. Dr. Mahmoud looked at the screens, exhausted but determined. "We survived," she said softly. "Not because we were stronger, not because we were faster, because we refused to give up. And now we start thinking, truly thinking about how to fight back." Commander Carter, standing on the deck of his carrier as it floated among debris in the Atlantic, watched the night sky. The alien fleet hung silently above, massive, ominous, and unknowable. Yet he felt a flicker of hope. Humanity had survived the first day, and if they survived the first day, there was a chance they could survive the next. Across the world, survivors gathered, tending to the wounded, sharing food, water, and shelter. They whispered stories of bravery, of sacrifice, and of hope. The slaughter had tested humanity, but it had not broken it. The species had faced extinction and had endured. The human spirit, stubborn and unyielding, had survived the first great challenge of the alien invasion. And somewhere in the cold silence of space, the aliens observed, noting every reaction, every pattern, every moment of fear and resilience. They did not yet understand humans. They had destroyed much, but they had not yet conquered the most important element of Earth's defense: the mind, the heart, and the will of its people. The stars, silent above the shattered Earth, seemed to watch the survivors. Humanity had endured the slaughter, and though the battle was far from over, something new had begun, something the aliens had never anticipated. Humans would fight. Not with the largest weapons, not with the fastest ships, but with determination, with courage, and with ingenuity that no force in the universe had yet seen. Earth had been wounded, scarred, and shaken. But it had not fallen. The story closes this part with the survivors looking toward the horizon, aware of the devastation, yet refusing to bow. Humanity had faced the slaughter, and though the cost had been immense, it had learned one critical truth: they were not powerless. And somewhere in that knowledge lay the first spark of hope against the invaders. The morning after the first wave of attacks was heavy with silence. Across the world, cities lay in ruins, oceans churned with unseen energy, and mountains bore scars from alien strikes. Yet amid the destruction, humanity moved forward. Survivors emerged from shelters, bunkers, and mountainsides, gathering in groups that were small but determined. Dr. Layla Mahmoud and her team worked around the clock in a secret underground lab in Switzerland. Their mission had changed. No longer could they merely observe, they had to act. The pulses sent by the alien fleet carried patterns that humans could not fully understand. But Layla had discovered something remarkable. These patterns were not random. They were structured, precise, and in certain sequences, predictable. "This is more than communication," she said to Jamal, her assistant, as they stared at the screens. "It's a method of control. Every strike, every pulse is designed to provoke reactions: fear, panic, confusion. They are studying us like subjects in an experiment." Jamal frowned. "So what do we do?" "We can't fight them head on. They're too powerful. We survived the first day, yes, but what now?" "We find the gaps," Layla replied. "They make mistakes. Small ones, almost invisible. But they're there. And if we can exploit them, we have a chance. Not with weapons, but with strategy." Meanwhile, Commander Elias Carter coordinated with remaining military units worldwide. The first wave of attacks had decimated fleets, but not all were destroyed. Small groups of ships hidden from the alien sensors remained. Carter gathered them in the Indian Ocean, forming a makeshift armada of survivors. "Our weapons won't beat them," he said to the assembled commanders, voice firm. "But our minds can. We're unpredictable. They think they understand us, but we've survived. We adapt. And now we strike with knowledge." In Japan, Akira Sato had been working day and night. He had noticed patterns in the alien pulses, tiny shifts that occurred when humans acted in certain ways. If he could map these fluctuations, he believed he could predict the fleet's behavior, maybe even influence it. "They're not invincible," he told a group of engineers helping him. "They've never met a species like us. We think differently. We respond differently. That difference is our strength." Across the planet, pockets of resistance formed. In Africa, volunteers organized supply lines moving food, water, and medical aid to survivors in remote regions. In Europe, scientists and engineers set up hidden communication networks, exchanging observations about the fleet's movements. In South America, former military units trained civilians to hide, observe, and respond to attacks. Humanity had survived the slaughter, and now it was learning to fight in a way the aliens could not anticipate. Layla and her team focused on decoding the pulses. Using advanced computers and algorithms, they discovered that the signals contained a repeating harmonic pattern, an echo of the fleet's internal communication. "If we can replicate it," Layla said, eyes bright, "we might be able to speak to them, or at least confuse them." Jamal looked skeptical. "Confuse them? That's it?" "That's our weapon. It's all we have," Layla replied. "And it might be enough. They've never faced anything like human ingenuity under pressure. We've survived the worst. Now we turn survival into strategy. In the Arctic, a team of engineers who had survived the initial attacks had modified satellite arrays to send counterpulses. Their work was secret, dangerous, and exhausting. Every pulse they sent had to be precise. Too strong and it could attract attention. Too weak and it would be ineffective. Every human action became a careful calculation, a move in a game played across the globe. The alien fleet continued to hover, massive and seemingly indifferent. Yet the survivors noticed small changes. Ships shifted formation slightly, beams paused for milliseconds longer. Pulses fluctuated when humans acted unpredictably. It was subtle, almost impossible to notice, but it was a weakness. Humanity's strength lay not in brute force, but in creativity, adaptability, and thought. Commander Carter's fleet began practicing maneuvers designed to exploit these small gaps. Fighters darted unpredictably, communications jammed intentionally, and the humans learned to act as a single organism, coordinated yet independent. Each small victory built confidence. Each success, no matter how minor, reminded humans that the fleet was not omnipotent. In Switzerland, Layla's team completed the prototype for what they called the resonance device. It was designed to emit a single, focused pulse in the same harmonic pattern the aliens used, amplified and modulated to carry human intention. In theory, it could disrupt the alien fleet's coordination, giving humanity a momentary advantage. The device was untested, experimental, and dangerous, but it was their best chance. Jamal stared at the machine, shaking his head. "We're really going to try to talk to them? With this?" Layla nodded. "Not talk, Jamal. Show that we are not just prey, that we are capable of thought, strategy, and unity. If we can do that, we can survive. And maybe, just maybe, we can win." Across the world, civilians continued to adapt. In South America, children learned to recognize alien pulses, understanding instinctively when to hide and when to move. In Europe, engineers repaired old communication systems using scavenged parts. In Africa, farmers and hunters mapped escape routes through forests and deserts. Humanity had endured the first day of slaughter, but now it was preparing for the long struggle, using intelligence, cooperation, and creativity as weapons. Even as hope grew, the cost of survival was clear. The first wave had left scars that would not heal quickly. Families mourned lost loved ones. Entire cities were gone. Yet in this suffering, humanity discovered resilience. Humans helped strangers, built shelters, shared food, and created networks of care that the aliens could not comprehend. It was not just survival, it was defiance. Akira Sato finally shared his findings with the world through secure channels. His observations confirmed what Layla suspected. The alien fleet reacted to patterns in human behavior. By changing those patterns unpredictably, humans could force the fleet into moments of hesitation. It was a small advantage, but in a battle where brute force was useless, small advantages became everything. In Geneva, Layla activated the resonance device for the first test. Energy pulsed through the lab as computers modulated the harmonic signals. For a brief moment, the alien pulses shifted, their rhythm disrupted. The device had worked. The fleet had reacted. Jamal's eyes widened. It worked. It actually worked. Layla nodded, exhausted but determined. This is just the beginning. If we can refine this, coordinate with the fleet's observations, we can create openings. Openings humans can use to survive and maybe fight back. Commander Carter, observing from his fleet in the Indian Ocean, coordinated with the hidden teams worldwide. Small strikes, distractions, and improvisations were planned to complement the resonance device. Humanity had found a way to turn their greatest weakness, their vulnerability, into strength. They were unpredictable, adaptable, and resilient. Across the globe, the alien fleet hovered, massive and threatening, yet their control was not absolute. Small disruptions in their signals, minor hesitations, and unexplained errors began to appear. Humans had learned that survival was not about matching the aliens in power. It was about using creativity, thought, and unity to exploit what the aliens could not predict. In the mountains of Afghanistan, a small group of survivors watched as a series of pulses caused one of the alien ships to pause, almost as if confused. They cheered quietly, careful not to attract attention. "We're learning," one said. "We're surviving, and we can fight back." As the day ended, humanity had begun to understand a crucial truth. The slaughter had not been the end. It had been a lesson. The aliens were powerful, but they were not invincible. They had never encountered a species like humans, unpredictable, resourceful, and determined. Dr. Mahmoud looked at her team, her eyes tired but bright. We survived because we refused to give up. Now we survive because we understand. And understanding is our weapon. We may be outmatched in strength, but we are not outmatched in spirit, in mind, or in courage. Humanity has found its first chance to fight back. Commander Carter spoke to his fleet, voice calm but firm. We've survived the slaughter. The battle is far from over, but every mistake they make, every gap we find is a chance for humans to show what we are capable of, and we will take that chance. Every single one. The stars above remained silent, the alien fleet massive and observant, but now Earth had a hidden resistance, small, fragile, yet brilliant in its determination. The planet had endured death and destruction, but it had also discovered the spark of hope, the spark that could one day turn survival into victory. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were thinkers, strategists, and a species that refused to be understood, controlled, or destroyed. The hidden resistance had begun, and in that beginning lay the first true threat to the invaders who had underestimated the spirit of Earth. The world was quiet, but the calm was fragile. Humanity had survived the first wave of destruction and had begun to organize a hidden resistance. Across the planet, teams of scientists, engineers, soldiers, and civilians worked tirelessly, preparing for what they knew would be the most dangerous operation in human history. Dr. Layla Mahmoud stood before the resonance device, the massive machine humming with energy in its underground lab. She had spent weeks refining it, tuning the pulses to match the alien fleet's harmonic patterns while injecting the human element, unpredictability, emotion, and defiance. "This is it," she said to Jamal, who had become her closest partner in this effort. "If we succeed, we create a moment of confusion in their fleet. A single opening. That's all we need." Jamal's hands shook slightly. "And if we fail?" "Then we die trying," Layla replied, her eyes firm. "But we have no other choice. Humanity doesn't survive by hiding forever." Meanwhile, Commander Elias Carter coordinated a global fleet of surviving ships, scattered across oceans and hidden in mountain valleys. Each unit had been trained to move unpredictably, to act in ways the aliens could not anticipate. The goal was clear: distract, confuse, and survive long enough for Layla's resonance device to work. From his bridge, Carter addressed the fleet. "Remember this, they are powerful, yes, but they cannot predict us entirely. They think in patterns, but we think in possibility. Every move we make, every unexpected action is a weapon. Stay sharp, trust your training, and trust your instincts." Akira Sato, observing from Japan, had mapped the fleet's responses for weeks. He had noticed subtle delays, slight hesitations when humans acted unpredictably. These gaps, invisible to most, would become the key to survival. Working with Layla and the other teams, he developed a series of simulated scenarios, testing every potential outcome. Across Europe, engineers prepared communication channels to coordinate worldwide actions. Even with satellites partially destroyed, humanity had found ways to link continents using underground cables, modified radio signals, and mobile networks. Every human action had been carefully synchronized to maximize the effect of the resonance device. The day of the operation arrived. Earth's skies were eerily calm, the alien fleet massive and unmoving above. Civilians had been evacuated to shelters. Soldiers took their positions, and scientists monitored the resonance device. Every pulse, every fluctuation, every action was critical. Layla took a deep breath as she activated the machine. A hum filled the lab, low at first, then building in intensity. Lights flickered across the control panels as the device began to emit the harmonic pulses, amplified and modulated with human intention. This was not just a signal. It was a message, a challenge, a statement of defiance. Above Earth, the alien fleet responded immediately. The ship shifted, beams scanned the planet, and pulses intensified as if trying to counter the intrusion. For a moment, it seemed the operation had failed. The tension in Layla's lab was unbearable. "Keep it steady," she said, voice firm despite the fear. "Do not let them disrupt the frequency." At sea, Commander Carter's fleet moved as planned. Fighters darted unpredictably between ships, creating false targets. Missiles fired not to hit the aliens, but to force them to react, to reveal patterns, to open gaps. The humans had learned that their strength lay not in power, but in unpredictability and strategy. In the mountains of South America, Volunteers guided small groups of civilians, moving them carefully to safe zones while avoiding detection. Every movement above the ground, every pulse of human activity, was calculated to contribute to the larger plan. Humanity had become a single organism, working together with focus and precision. The alien fleet, enormous and seemingly omniscient, began to show signs of hesitation. Pulses fluctuated in response to the resonance device. Ships paused for milliseconds longer than expected, and energy beams wavered. These tiny gaps, invisible to most, were exactly what humanity needed. Now, Layla whispered. She adjusted the device to modulate the pulses with greater intensity, combining it with a subtle randomness that no algorithm could predict. The machine emitted a sharp, resonating tone that rippled through the atmosphere, a wave of human defiance encoded into energy. At that moment, the fleet faltered. Ships shifted, misaligned for the first time. Beams that had swept cities clean paused mid-air. The alien sensors, designed for precision, could not immediately process the unpredictability. Humanity had created a moment, a single precious opening. Commander Carter's fleet moved swiftly. Ships darted through gaps, deploying decoys, disrupting minor systems on the alien vessels. Though the humans could not inflict significant damage, their coordinated maneuvers amplified the effect of the resonance device. For the first time, the alien fleet hesitated in a meaningful way. In the underground lab, Layla monitored the results. "It's working," she said, her voice shaking with relief and determination. "They're reacting to us. They're unsure. We have their attention." Jamal's eyes widened. "They've never faced anything like this, have they?" "No," Layla replied. "And that is our advantage. They are powerful, but they cannot predict the human mind. That is something no machine, no algorithm, no pattern can fully anticipate." Across the globe, humans watched as small victories accumulated. Cities still burned, but the alien attacks slowed, misfired, and became less organized. Fighters darted unpredictably. Convoys moved through hidden routes, and scientists adjusted the resonance device in real time to exploit every hesitation. Humanity had learned to fight not with brute force, but with intelligence, courage, and coordination. Akira Sato noted the shifts in the alien signals. "They're adapting," he said, "but slower than we are. Every second counts." "Keep going," hours passed. The resonance device hummed continuously. Human fleets moved unpredictably, and volunteers guided civilians to safety. The alien fleet, massive and relentless, struggled to maintain control. For the first time, the invaders realized that Earth was not merely prey, it was a challenge. Commander Carter sent a message to all units. "Hold the gaps. Protect the civilians. Do not waste effort on destruction. Every unpredictable move, every coordinated action is part of the plan. Humanity survives not because we are the strongest, but because we refuse to be predictable." In the labs, Layla and her team adjusted the device, fine-tuning the pulses. "We need one final surge," she said. "A coordinated wave combining every human input we've measured. It has to be perfect." The team worked tirelessly, monitoring signals, recalculating patterns, and adjusting the harmonic waves. Every keystroke, every adjustment was a race against time. The alien fleet, massive and deadly, remained above, responding to every human action, yet unable to anticipate the ultimate plan. Finally, Layla activated the surge. A wave of energy pulsed outward, resonating through the alien fleet, amplified by the coordinated movements of humans across the planet. Ships misaligned, sensors scrambled, and for a brief shining moment humanity held the advantage. The alien fleet faltered, uncertain, confused, and vulnerable. Humanity had executed its final gambit, not with the largest weapons, not with the fastest ships, but with intelligence, strategy, and the indomitable will to survive. Commander Carter's fleet moved through the opening, signaling to all units. Civilians were evacuated, decoys deployed, and small strikes carried out to maintain pressure. Humanity had turned the tide, however briefly, against a force that had seemed unstoppable. In the underground lab, Layla allowed herself a small smile. "We've done it," she whispered. "Not defeated them, but shown them we cannot be ignored. We exist, we adapt, we survive." Jamal nodded, exhausted but filled with hope. "And they know it now." Above the Earth, the alien fleet hovered, massive and imposing, yet for the first time unsure. They had never encountered a species that combined courage, intelligence, and unpredictability in such a way. Humanity had survived slaughter, had learned, and it struck back not with weapons, but with the power of thought, coordination, and defiance. As night fell across the scarred planet, humans gathered watching the skies, tending the wounded and planning the next steps. The resonance device had worked, but the battle was far from over. Humanity had taken the first true step in the fight for survival. The stars remained silent above, but Earth had made itself heard. A single unified statement of defiance had echoed across the void, and the alien fleet could no longer treat the planet as a helpless target. Humanity had gambled, and in that gamble had found hope, strategy, and the first taste of victory. The final gambit was complete. The battle had turned, but the war continued. And humanity, scarred but unbroken, would continue to fight with every tool it possessed: intelligence, courage, and an unyielding will to survive. The sky over Earth had changed. Though the alien fleet still loomed, massive and menacing, it moved with caution, its previous confidence shaken. Humanity's final gambit had succeeded, not by destroying the invaders, but by forcing them to recognize a new, unsettling truth: Earth was no longer helpless. In Geneva, Dr. Layla Mahmoud watched the monitors of the resonance device, its energy pulses rippling across the atmosphere. The device had been recalibrated after the first surge, now emitting a more complex wave, one that combined the harmonic patterns of the alien fleet with subtle human improvisation. The goal was no longer simple distraction. It was communication of intent. Jamal, her assistant, leaned over her shoulder. "They're reacting differently this time." "Look at the readings," Layla nodded. "They're analyzing. They've never seen a species like us, resilient, adaptive, unpredictable. They don't understand how to respond." Across the globe, civilians and soldiers watched the skies with cautious hope. In New York, volunteer rescue teams moved swiftly through the ruined streets, while in Tokyo, Akira Sato observed patterns in the alien energy pulses that indicated confusion. Ships paused mid-air, beams wavered, and some ships even withdrew slightly as though reconsidering their position. Humanity had spoken, not in words but in action, in ingenuity, and in survival. Commander Elias Carter coordinated from the Indian Ocean, using his fleet as both shield and signal. Human movements, carefully synchronized with the resonance device, created a pattern of unpredictability that the aliens could not fully process. Every diversion, every maneuver, was a statement. Humans would not be defeated by fear, by power, or by overwhelming force. In the mountains of South America, small groups of survivors noticed a strange calm. The usual destructive pulses of the fleet had changed. Beams that had once obliterated entire forests now struck rocks and water with precision but restraint. It was as though the fleet hesitated, trying to calculate the unpredictable behavior of humans. "This is it," Layla whispered to Jamal. "They're not attacking recklessly because they don't know what to expect. They're observing, and that is the key." We forced them to pause. The world held its breath. Humanity had created an effect unlike anything the aliens had faced before. Their energy pulses, designed to dominate and destroy, were now met with resistance that could not be measured in strength alone. It was coordination, ingenuity, and will, the unpredictable variables of human thought, that had caused the alien hesitation. From orbit, Akira Sato monitored the fleet's signals, noting the subtle fluctuations in the harmonic waves. "They're processing," he said, "trying to understand why Earth behaves this way. Every human action, every improvisation, it's something they've never encountered." Across Europe, engineers and scientists maintained the global network of communication, ensuring that every human action could contribute to the larger effect. Civilians, soldiers, and volunteers became part of a single organism, their movements carefully timed with the resonance device's pulses. Every act of survival reinforced the signal. Every unpredictable choice amplified the effect. Even as hope grew, the stakes remained high. Cities were still in ruins, and the alien fleet could strike again at any moment. Yet humanity had discovered a profound truth. Their strength was not in size or weapons, but in mind, spirit, and adaptability. They had survived slaughter, fought back with ingenuity, and now forced the aliens into hesitation. In Africa, Dr. Mahmoud's team coordinated with local resistance networks. Children and adults alike learned to recognize the alien pulses and to move in ways that maximized the disruption. Every subtle shift, every unpredictable choice became part of the collective effort. Humanity had turned survival into a weapon. Commander Carter addressed his fleet. They hesitate because we are unpredictable. They hesitate because we survive when they expect surrender. This is our power. We will continue to move, to adapt, to think in ways they cannot anticipate. That is how we win. Not by brute force, but by being human. In New York, a volunteer medic rescued a small child from a partially collapsed building. The child clutched the medic's hand, eyes wide but curious. "Are they gone?" the child asked. The medic smiled faintly. "Not gone. But they are listening now, and that is enough." Above Earth, the alien fleet had stopped its relentless barrage. Ships hovered, their beams wavering, pulses fluctuating. It was clear. They had never anticipated a species that combined courage, adaptability, and unpredictability in such a way. Humanity had created an effect that could not be ignored. In Geneva, Layla adjusted the resonance device, introducing subtle variations that reflected human creativity. Jamal watched the reading spike, showing the aliens' confusion. "They don't understand," he said, awe in his voice. "They can't predict us." "Exactly," Layla replied. "And that is our message. We exist, we endure. We resist, and that is louder than any weapon." The world responded to the shift in the alien behavior. Civilians ventured from shelters to rebuild, rescue teams moved with confidence, and the global networks of communication became more active. Humanity's collective action became an echo, an expression of the species' resilience, defiance, and ingenuity. In the Pacific, surviving naval fleets used the pause to reposition, rescuing ships and civilians trapped near coasts. Every maneuver, every coordinated action reinforced the global effect. Humanity had become a single organism, moving with purpose and unpredictability. Commander Carter observed the alien fleet's subtle hesitation and spoke to his crews. "They expected to intimidate us. They expected to destroy us easily. They did not expect this, and they still do not understand. That is why we survive. That is why we endure. That is why we fight." Across the globe, humans noticed a subtle change in the skies. The alien ships, though still enormous and threatening, moved more cautiously. The destructive pulses that had devastated cities were fewer and weaker. Humanity's ingenuity had forced a pause, a moment in which survival became possible. Akira Sato monitored the alien harmonic signals carefully. "They're analyzing our patterns, but it's too complex for them," he explained. "Every small action, every human choice creates unpredictability. They can't calculate it, and that hesitation right there is the opening we need." Dr. Mahmoud smiled, exhausted but determined. "This is the moment we've been waiting for. Not destruction, not revenge, understanding. We've made them see that Earth is not just a planet to be conquered. It's a species to be reckoned with." In shelters, survivors whispered stories of courage and ingenuity. Children learned about the volunteers who had risked everything, and adults shared knowledge of the coordinated efforts that had forced the aliens to hesitate. Humanity's spirit, unbroken and clever, echoed across continents. Commander Carter spoke one final time before the fleets withdrew to safer positions. "Remember this. Our power is not in weapons alone. It is in thought, courage, and adaptability. They can destroy cities, but they cannot destroy the human spirit. That is what we have shown today." The stars above remained silent, vast, and unknowable. Yet Earth had spoken in a new way. Not with words, but with action, with defiance, with intelligence. The alien fleet had paused, hesitant, unsure, and for the first time respectful of the unpredictable species below. In the aftermath of the echo, humanity did not celebrate victory. There was too much loss, too much pain, but there was hope. The kind that grows quietly and steadily, rooted in knowledge, courage, and unity. Humans had survived slaughter. Humans had fought back. And now, they had forced a pause in the invaders' relentless assault. Layla Mahmoud turned to Jamal, her eyes reflecting the light of the monitors. "We've done more than survive," she said softly. "We've spoken. And for the first time, they're listening." Jamal nodded, a faint smile crossing his face. "And they'll never forget it." Across the ruined planet, survivors rebuilt, rescued, and planned. Humanity had endured the unimaginable and had discovered its true strength, the combination of thought, courage, and will. It was not in the largest weapons nor in the fastest ships, but in the unpredictable, indomitable nature of humans themselves. The alien fleet, massive and powerful, drifted silently above. For the first time, they had learned something new, something the universe had never shown them before. Earth had spoken, and in that single resonant echo the aliens understood. Humans were not merely prey. Humans were a force of their own, clever, resilient, and impossible to fully predict. The stars remained silent, but Earth had made itself heard. Humanity's message, clear and unyielding, echoed across the void. We survive. We endure, we adapt, and we will not be ignored.